All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. I'm just making sure and checking all the levels. And I moved on over to StreamYard today. So if you have questions or comments about the things that we've been going over, you're going to have an opportunity to let your voice be heard. All that I ask is that we keep it respectful, um, you know, no profanity, and we respect other people's thoughts and opinions. So with that said, hey everyone. I hope everybody's doing well. I've been over here on StreamYard in a while. So let me go ahead and get into this. How is everybody doing? Let me go ahead and drop the link so that I know, so that you can be prepared if you want to come up after I share what it is that I have to share. Good evening, Tony B. How are you? I'm trying to get everything in order here. So that's the StreamYard link if you would like to come up and share your thoughts. So we don't have a reading today, but it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna have a reading back tomorrow. Um, but what we have today is someone that I see a lot of people looking to speak, which is Allan Skill Cole. I don't know if you saw the JTV interview where he's speaking about um, not watching the reading or the movie, um, and telling why. And the reason he says he didn't watch it is because I lied. He's saying that there were some inaccuracies in the movie, especially as it relates to the box. So if you've seen the movie, when they're arguing in the streets, Rita holla up on box Bob, and a lot of people was like, "Yo, fireball for that. Why is Rita boxing Bob?" Right? And so you already know me. I'm going to jump into these books. Shout out to everybody who just joined us because the question is, he says that would have never happened because Bob would have went off the hinges, and you've been following along, and we see Norval yesterday. Norval tried to run up on City, right? He tried to give her 4 whips with the supplejack, and then he's like, "Yo, light my pipe," and then she went in on him. So I came across something that I didn't really touch on it because of the way the story was coming together. But why not touch on it now? Okay, so we're gonna see whether or not Rita and his mother, and her mother, Bob's mother, talks about any violence in the home. Okay, so I forgot to bring my books. Hold on for me 1 second, and I will be right back. And if you would like to come up and share your thoughts, just come up to the top and It should be sound now. Let me know if I can hear sound. Can you hear me now? Can I be heard? Okay, cool. It's the external mic, everybody. The external mic looked like it went out, so I have to just use the mic on the computer. Hopefully it's good. So let's get into this the situation in the household so we can see whether or not Alan Skillcole has a point or whether or not he may have not been privy to that aspect of their relationship. So I'm going to be coming from Cedella's book, and it's not going to take long. And then again, the link is in the description so we can move forward from there. I'm saving this for another time because she goes into her relationship with Bunny Wailer's father. And whoever's in the chat, you don't have to leave. I'm gonna open it back again so that you can come up. But I wanted to go over this really quickly. So she's in an abusive relationship with Bunny Wailer's father. We'll come back to that another time, right? It says Nestor, who was about 15 years old at the time, was very angry and upset when he saw me with a black eye. Like I said, Taddy Livingston, it's not a good look when they first moved there. So Nestor seeing his mother with a black eye. When I grow big, mama, and become a man, he vowed, touching my bruised eye, I go and lick that man back in an eye. You wait and see. So this person, this son who loved his mother, saw her being abused, and he's vowing that he gonna thump back Toddy in his eye. Okay. No, I said wearily, you don't have to do that. You just bring more trouble. And Nestor never did. A child grows up, takes on his own responsibilities in life with the eyes of a man, sees childhood episodes differently. And as we can see, City has gone through some things. Like her reasoning. Okay. It says, in later life, Nestor himself would occasionally have to slap up his own woman when her mouth got too enough. Want to hear that? Cedella Marley, according to this narrative, is saying that she is justifying in some way the experience of being abused in this relationship and advising her own son not to do anything, not to take any retributive steps, and that when he grew up, he understood why he had to slap up him woman them when our mouth got too enough. This is his mother saying that. Very interesting. So that's one account to the mother saying that he had a little bit of Norval in him, right? Now let's go to the other account. Like I said, this part is going to be quick, and then you guys let me know your thoughts. Now we're going to go to Rita. So Rita says, but then remember, she was writing to the mother saying how things were terrible, saying how ever since the beginning, right after they got married, when she was going back and forth and communicating with the mother that he was hanging out with man on man and he wasn't helping her. Okay, cool. But when she says, but then things began to get a little complicated. This is when they were trying to find a place to live. The landlady found out who I was and that Viola Britton was my aunt, and soon considered it her duty to report every action that took place in our rooms. Sometimes Bob and I actually got into physical fights. So when asked, and Ziggy says that he witnessed his parents getting into physical altercations. This is what Ziggy says when asked about the slap scene. So when Allan is saying no such thing, or it's a lie, I'm like, wait a minute. So the people who was there, why would they need to lie about something like that? I don't know. I wasn't there. It says here, Bob and I actually got into physical fights, although it was like we were children, not in a kill dead fight, but a love fight. What name love fight? But the justification in them something. Yeah, my girl said love fight. The one you get into in order to make up. Nobody now box me, if you make up, that I don't know love fight. I don't know what I would fight, exclamation point. I was going to take a blow. I was going to hit back. You hit me, I'm going to hit you. And they apparently were doing this in front of the children because Ziggy recalls seeing this And therefore it made it way in the movie. So if you look at the producer credits, you'll see Cedella's name and Rita's name, and some of what they were doing was referring to what they left on record, right? It says, I think Bob, this is her reflecting, respected me for that. What, for fighting? It says, but though I was always the first to scratch. So the movie depicts her boxing him. She's saying that she was the first to initiate when she was not, before she got in her sister phase. She was the first to scratch. This is what she's taking the onus on herself. But though I was always the first to scratch, I'll start crying in a minute. And then because he didn't like to see me cry, he would say, hey, that's not how we're supposed to live. I'm sorry. And you made me do it. You made me do it is the stereotypical abusive experience in a relationship. You made me do it, bro. I wanted to bring this up, but other things was going on, so I didn't bring it up. But now that Alan Skill Cole brought it up, why not? Right? It says here, he says, you made me do it. Yeah, okay. And things like that. And he would always make up before the night was over. So y'all fighting like Ike and Tina and then making up? I never let Auntie know, but she would look at me sometimes and say, uh-oh, you had a fight last night. I can tell. Why your face look like that? So when she'll get back up in her face? Or whatever happened to your hand there? She said, one night, Bob and I had a fight because dinner was late. It's giving me Norval vibes. It was late because we didn't have a kitchen. I mean, if that's not a reason not to have dinner on the table, you never had no stove, right? She says, I had to do the cooking on the ground in the doorway. Interesting. Every morning and evening, I had to catch a coal fire, fan it until it lit, and then wait for it to burn properly. At this time, them never really have no much place to live and no much money. And so they trying to rent a room, and you know what I mean? The stone was your pillow last night, okay? It says here, and then wait for it to burn properly, which was hardly easy with one small baby not even sitting up yet and another still around my feet. The night we fought about the late dinner, Auntie's watchman got right on the job. As soon as she heard Auntie came for me, she actually wanted to move me out back to her house. And this was really a turnoff for Bab. Am I not man enough to control my house? Remember when mother just said, when them woman are get multi, you figure one novel box. So here, according to Rita, because we never did it, Bob always had this kind of back and forth with the auntie. He's controlling his house by giving her two bucks, right? He shouted, why can't I quarrel with my wife? Quarrel are one thing, box is the next thing, huh? It says here, but auntie, so small but so powerful, said, no, this is not what I sent her to school for. And other things, because once again, she thought I was being worthless. When a man hits you, it's not good, she insisted. It's a bad sign. So I'm trying to figure out in the interview if he was aware that they wrote this like a decade ago. Like if you were there since 1969, you would know that these people was getting into physical altercations. No, it says here, it's a bad sign. So here it is. You're being mistreated, and this is not the life you're supposed to be living. This is not what I brought you up for, and all of that, and blah blah blah. So I let her take me back to her house, and then Bob came, and he and I made up, of course, and Auntie too. So you kind of get the point. You kind of get the point. There was some box thing going on. Okay. And I'll put the you can see it as well that Ziggy says the same thing, that he witnessed this thing between his parents. So you got three witnesses right there witnessing that there was physical violence. I don't know how advantageous it would have been to put Ike and Tina vibes in the movie, and that may be why you may not see him retaliating. It's not to say that he didn't retaliating. It just means that they didn't necessarily catch it on screen. That's my thoughts on that. Let me know yours. And as it relates to Cindy, he was really not feeling the fact that Cindy wasn't there. Because according to him, the way he speaks so endearingly towards Cindy, it sounds like Rita was the gal there and Cindy was the juby. I was like, this is fascinating. But I'm gonna drop the link in the box. I'm gonna read some of the comments, and then yeah, we could talk about whatever we've gone over so far. Let me know your thoughts. and then we can go from there. So let me see what's going on here. Mm-mm-mm. And if you're enjoying the show, go ahead and put the like button. Yeah, the audio. No, no worry. We're back on it. Back in the saddle. Let's see. Let's see. So that was not a healthy relationship, in no stretch of the imagination, right? In addition to the bun, you getting beaten and bun. Live your best life. Still no song. Let me see here. Any questions? I'm a new subscriber. Thanks for doing these chats. Yeah, I'm enjoying it as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys. Skill Code doesn't like a bone in Rita. I could tell. I didn't know much about him, but when he spoke, I was like, ooh, somebody doesn't like somebody. I'm wondering if it is financial. Cindy came way later for him to be acting like she really loved. Yeah, the way he gave the interview, I don't know how many people saw it. It's short. And he has a book coming out. He says he's going to write his own book. Everybody I write book, no. He said he's going to write his own book because he was there. Yeah, and then another question I had about Cindy, and respect to her because she's still here, her children is still here. I'm trying to figure out how a Rasta man that is holding strong to the order, right, of Rastafari at that time, now it's okay to be linked in public with a woman who is not only just a beauty queen but walks on the stage in her underwear. Like it wasn't, even though I said before it was good for optics, as it relates to what he was putting out to the public, I'm trying to figure out how they rationalize that. Like how did that become okay? And she often said that in her interviews that Bob didn't like her making up her face or putting on false nails. So how did he, how did he make peace with that, given that this is the condition that you found her in? I don't get that, but that's interesting. And then I got another tip from a subscriber as it talks about violence. Let me see if I could pull this up. There is a guitar that is being said to be auctioned that was Bob Marley's guitar, and this guitar was broken because, according to the narrative, Cindy Breakspear broke it on Bob Marley's head. Let me see if I can get that article. I should have had that already queued up, because if what I'm hearing is correct, not only was there violence in the Rita situation, there's some possible evidence of violence with the Cindy situation too. So that's curious whether or not it can be validated. Why didn't he box Sydney? We don't know. Maybe he did. She can't tell me. I don't know. I don't know if that's what he was into. Right. That what Rita is saying, that they boxed each other. They were in there boxing each other. So you just came in, no problem. What we were talking about was the recent interview, some objections to the movie, one of which that there was some falsehood. I think because of the way they positioned Bob Marley and Rita Marley at the later part in their life, when it was clear that he was with other people, namely Cindy Breakspear, I think they're saying it's disingenuous to have this love story positioned at this time when it was clear that they weren't on that level. You understand me? Say it's like they kind of mixed old situation and new situation and kind of made it this one love. And I suppose a movie that's one love, you're not gonna have how much meat to just around. You understand me? I say that would be kind of weird. We hear he loved Rita, he didn't respect her. That's interesting. Can you love someone without respecting them? And now that we're reading his mother and his father and that energy in which Bob was created, I think that duality that exists in all of us, it was very it was very prominent in him. Remember, in the story that we're on break from, but we're going to pick it up tomorrow, his mother is trying to break away and to become more spiritually grounded and rooted, and his father is trying to manipulate her, according to her narrative, back into fornication, right? And we see that play a lot in Bob, where he leans towards this spiritual aspect of himself, and then he also leans heavily into this free love, fornication, take up all of the woman them, breed up all of the woman them kind of energy. So he is equally as much Norval as he is City, which is interesting to watch. There's this like kind of dichotomy about him that
makes some people uncomfortable, and then you have to explain it away, right? So that it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, considering that he can sing about these very revolutionary songs, but then behave like that with his counterparts, right? Okay, Don Taylor saying the same thing as Skill. And you know why I chose to read these two books? There was an interview about woman in Rastafari, right? And the interviewer asked Bob Marley about women's position in Rastafari, and he turns to Rita wasn't there, so he turns to Judy Mowatt, and Judy has to come in and answer. And there was another place where I think I heard Rita's talking about the invisibility of the feminine principle in the organization, even though they're there, and even though you need them to be this background backup singer, their voices are not necessarily heard, and oftentimes drowned out by other people, right? Who So I think it's important that these books also be read in tandem with the official narrative, because just because they're women don't mean said. I've heard people say, "Oh, Rita lied," and then you be like, "Okay, what did she lie about?" That mean the mother lied too. Esther Anderson a liar too. Like everybody who's saying something that you don't want to necessarily hear, they don't necessarily have to be a liar. It just means that they had a different experience than what you perceived or I perceived, right? So I think it's important to read their stories as well. Yep, let's get the likes up, people. Sister Holder says maybe he was not at peace. It was clear to see that there was some back and forth within the soul of the person. I know we see, the star, but who's that person when they get off the stage, when they sit down one away, when they hold a meds, right? Are they at peace in their soul? There's a lot of, when you look at superstars, especially musicians, there's always this deep pain within the soul. Really big musicians, you see their performance is great, and they put all of their energy and time and effort into that, because behind that there is something else that they're battling, right? And so this is a way for them to open or bare their souls to the world and be accepted. And it can oftentimes overshadow the other darker parts of them that they necessarily don't want the world to see. I was wondering the same regarding him being right. How are you? I mean, she was Miss Beauty, not Miss Beauty Queen, Miss Swimsuit. Like she literally in her panty. You were upset that Rita was breastfeeding the baby. Remember, we read that a few days ago. He said, Rita, you can't do that to America. Oh, your titty out and you breastfeed the baby, Rita. What kind of slackness this? Also, you, yes, man, Cindy, Magdalena, your panty. I mean, make it make sense. Make it make sense. It's late, y'all. So I don't know how much jokes I got in me. It's late, but that don't make no sense. Like, why are you mad she breastfeeding the baby, but you also clapping because your girl was modeling in her panty? I don't get that part. Exactly. Um, yeah, Bob was equally Norval. I think he was equal when he's acting a certain way. I was like, I'm just gonna call him Norval. He was equally Cedella as he was Norval. Okay, I think the musician part, that's his mother. That part of seeking and searching spirituality, that was the energy that his mother was in. But that box and that kind of vibe, that's equally Norval right there. I think he did like Cindy's style and beautification, but he was conflicted. Yeah, it's clear. It's clear. It's clear to see. I think again, like I said, she was something that, and Alan Skillcole says it. She helped his career. It was something that was gonna progress his career. You denied having a wife, but you openly accepted that she was your girlfriend. Like that don't make no sense unless the paparazzi is gonna eat this up. They're gonna it's gonna look Beauty and the Beast, and I'm still looking for that. I know I saw that newspaper article somewhere, but that's what would sell and take the music to the world, but it came at a price. Seems as though the entire timeline of the movie post shooting, they were only couple in name. They never even kissed on the lips. Yeah, no, it's I think it was crafted in a way because they said that there was an actor or actress for Sidney Breakspeare's part, but it just didn't. It's on the cutting room floor somewhere, right? I think in post production they may have tried to shave off some things of the movie so that they can hone in on this one love Valentine's Day Bob and Rita situation. And for people who know, they're like, no, sir, something wrong, yes, sir. What happened to the other woman they were breed all along the way? Um, yeah, an internal struggle. At the time, you as a brown man, your father is European. you don't know him, you're in a melanated community or black community in the country, they don't necessarily accept you fully, because Bunny Wailer, he weirdly laughs in the interview in the Marley movie, and I'm like, that even sounded today a little cruel. Like, yes, he was rejected. Like, why are you saying that with your whole chest? Like, what? So there was a lot of things. This is where later on he says, I'm not on the black man's side and I'm not on the white man's side. I'm on the side of truth, because he's kind of towing this line of not really belonging anywhere, really. And so seeing that the people, so he had to try extra hard. He had to try to be to be there for people who needed him. And when they disappointed him, when the attempted assassination, I think that really wore on his spirit. Living in exile, still not being accepted in the way that you desire, right? And that's a story for a lot of people, whatever it may be, whether you be the black sheep, whether you be, the illegitimate child. He wasn't necessarily illegitimate, because his father, they later on get married. That's what we're going to read in the next installment. But still, he still has a stigma about him, right? So he has a white father, but he doesn't have all the benefits of having a white father, right? It says, I'm sad, I'm wondering if the respect was based on her race. He took Rita for granted and didn't respect her. I mean, again, I think early on, Rita represented his mother. And after a certain point, you need your mother. And then if your mother is overbearing, and she says it herself, that later on, she feels like he resented her. So I think that plays a role. Like, you needed that person when you needed them. And now you want to grow from beyond that point, but you forgot you married them. And so now you're like, marriage, I man not believe in a marriage. Never, I mean, never yet married. Nobody, even though you have a picture. No, I Photoshop that. Maybe he thought that City could take him further. Yeah, she actually, that's what Alan Skilcole is saying, that she took him further in his career, right? And so the predecessor to that would have been Esther Anderson, who's setting this whole situation up. This is why the next thing I'm gonna do is watch that documentary, that this is the stepping stone. So I think in retrospect, based on what they're sharing with us, Rita looked like she was a stepping stone for him to get to where he was going. Maybe he thought, let's see here. He felt rejected by his white dad. Yeah, I mean, the dad wasn't necessarily there. I know we're going to get into that part in the book. The dad gallops away. He leaves and goes to Kingston before he's born. He comes shortly after, and so he really grows up in 9 Mile with Omariah, you know what I mean, and all our family them. He grows up there for a time, and there's a lot that goes on with the dad. I don't think the dad fully rejected him as much as the dad ain't had no money. The dad was broke. His family had money, but the dad, Norval, you see what Norval just had to do. I don't think Norval had it like that. You know what I mean? I don't think. Yeah, I think he had a lot of. And yes, you bring a good point that Chris Backwell, you have to think about handlers. We see it in today's society and spaces of entertainment that people also have handlers. So yes, I agree. We have to consider all of these external factors that's influencing his thought. But according to Rita, from the jump, they had problems. Like, I called it trauma bond. People like, no, Mona, them in love. I think it was a trauma bond. He had lost, she had lost. They saw abuse. Remember, Rita's father is off in England, and her mother dumps her and goes off and marries some next man and leaves her and her brother. So Rita's looking for somewhere to attach, some type of secure attachment that she can feel loved. This is even through her words in this book, you see uncertainty. And she's way older when she writes this book. You feel, I feel she's not really, the way she writes it, it feels like she's still uncertain about some things. Yeah, he probably thought he was going to change her. He probably thought he was going to change Cindy. I just find it interesting that you're a Rasta man, and your girl is walking around in her panty, but or in some revealing outfit, but you didn't want your wife to feed your child. If the story is true, if we're to be believed what we're being told, it's the fact that he chased Cindy for 3 years. Well, him father never chase him mother. It could be the thrill of the chase. Just because a man chase a woman, that not mean saying love her. Men are naturally, and men, let me know, but they're hunters. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, you presenting something difficult, it gives me a challenge, right? So just because he chased her doesn't necessarily mean he loved her. It just means that, hey, this is exciting. I mean, he was probably intrigued. Okay, I hear that. As a man, I've loved a woman I didn't respect. Break that down for me if you can. Again, I put the link I put the link in the box because that would be interesting. I've heard it said that women need love and men need respect. So I'm trying to figure out how you love someone that you don't respect. That's interesting. Babylon is that tricky thing. Babylon. Can we consider the colorist aspect? Absolutely. I mean, yeah, he was for international crossover appeal, right? And I would agree that there's an aspect that Sydney would have representing somebody that who was actually, I think it was Esther Anderson who said that it was Bob's white side that made him appealing, right? So coupling him with someone that is going to give this mass appeal, it's not going to make him as necessarily threatening as a Bunny Whaler or as a Peter Tosh, who is this very heavily melanated man who does have a side. Bob says, I'm not on the black man's side or the white man's side, but somebody who, like a Marcus Garvey, who clearly has a side, he's not ambiguous. It's clear it's to be able to say, okay, this person is going to be a problem, as opposed to one love, everybody come in, I'm not coming for you kind of way. So to a certain degree, maybe they have to soften him up at the edges so that he can be accepted. And that's what we see. So I think there definitely is an aspect to that. Rasta's notorious for preaching pro-black, but often marry white. Oops. They do not practice what they preach. Oops. Oops. A lot of mixed people feel they don't fit in anywhere, and that's the reality, because sometimes you say you marry who you love, but people marry people and they marry families and you marry cultures, right? And sometimes the cultures can meld, and other times one culture dominates another culture, right? And so it depends on, in his situation, I think it was class and it was color, in the sense of one side of this Marley family. And when we get to it, I'm gonna show his uncle, because I was able to find an article in the Gleaner about his uncle, who was also named Robert Marley. And he was pretty prominent in Kingston. He was prominent when he died. They had a big announcement in the paper and everything. And so it was class, because his mother laments that his father gave him like 2 shillings when he died. Like, his father didn't have no money. So again, he's European, half European, but he's not getting the benefits of what it would have been to be a white man or a son of a white man in Jamaica at that time. He's not reaping the benefits. So it's difficult because he's poor. So he has to identify with the struggle of the black man. And when he finds himself in different rooms, maybe you can dip over a little bit. In Don Taylor's book, he hints at Bob thinking City was only with him for his money. It's a possibility. I don't know. The manager is one that told him to tell people that he wasn't married. Yeah, I mean, we read that when he first went with the first record label, they were advising him not to say that he was married. And Rita finds this out reading a paper, and him say, "Oh, that no, not Rita, no, watch that. That are just for the people then." But according to Skill Cole in this recent interview, he told Bob that would come back to haunt him. He said Bob went around and told all the women that. So I don't know how much people in his circle would let him know, like, bruh, stop that. But according to Allan Skilco, he told him that will come back to haunt him. Okay, I don't like how people currently want to play Cindy over Rita, or Rita must give our show Sydney respect. At the end of the day, Rita's the wife. He was Sydney for business professional. I mean, and that's what it is. It looks like the factions are like Camp Sydney and Camp Rita, Camp Matey and Camp Wifey, right? And even Skill Cole tries to disregard the fact that this woman who is the wife, she took on more responsibility than just advancing your career. She is making sure that your legacy is still here long after you're not. Your legacy is still here. And she didn't do it where it was just her children, according to the narrative, right? So I think it's apples to oranges. I think it's apples to oranges. Would Sydney, let me ask a question. Do we think that based on what we see in present day, would Sydney Breakspear have fought for his legacy? Would she have sold off his goods, or would she have tried to make sure that the legacy was there so that all his children now can, because he didn't leave a will. According later on in the book, the mother said, him say, make them fight, make them kill themselves feet. Janice Job, what's the name of the lawyer? She was there the entire time. She was in Germany. So when he sees he's dying, why didn't he call her and say, "Hey, come here with one pen. Me want to tell you what you do with what and what." So the fact that they're thrown headlong into this battle for to make sure so them could have eat, put on pampas. Rowan Marley's on the internet talking about there was no money when they were battling, and he had to get a scholarship to be able to go to college. Like, would any of the other baby mothers have fought in the way to make sure that today we can still talk about them and that the legacy was preserved? I don't know that they would have. Like I said before, I think that Rita had more skin in the game because she was there. She was there from the beginning, right? And she actually put her energy, her blood, her sweat, and tears. So it's not only Bob Marley's legacy she's preserving, it's her own as well. Bunny, this seems sour. I was gonna read that open letter. I'm trying to verify the open letter because I like to verify sources, as y'all see. And I don't know where the open letter came from. I kind of got to track it down because Bunny says some things in that. Bunny Willa Livingston. Yeah, I'm like, what in the world? Hear ye, hear ye. Yeah, he wasn't invited to the wedding, accepting Bob would walk away from doing a tour with him. And, I think, again, these ones are Bunny Wailer and Bob. They had a longer relationship than I knew, right? They had a longer relationship than I knew about. And therefore, they may have other things that's going on with them. So, conflicted is right. Yeah, I think he was being pulled in many directions. And he may have felt he outgrew her. That's a possibility. But isn't that what usually happens? And then oftentimes women is like, I'm not going to build a man because when he gets to where he's just going to go and get someone who didn't put the foundation in, who wasn't there when you had one drawers and one shirt, who didn't boil one banana and put little butter on it. You know what I'm saying? And now when you get to where you're going, there's no loyalty. You're going to go and get somebody who's good for optics. How would, that's off. The Bible tells Solomon, who was known for being, going left, he said, remember the wife of your youth. And so there's something that comes with betraying the wife of the youth, the person who was there and allowed you to get to where the creator doesn't necessarily look kindly upon that type of thing. You feel me? Even though some man can do and want to, but it comes with consequences because life is cyclical, right? Again, click the link if you want to come in. I'm going to bring up, if you have some thoughts, I'm going to definitely come and bring you up. All I ask is that we be respectful as we are in here. So it's all good. It says how the mixed kids with black mothers tend to be more stable and confident about their identity. And a lot of times it's because the mother is the one who transmits culture. She's there with the children day and night, right? So a lot of times people think that you're going to marry anybody and then you're going to retain your culture. Not necessarily. Bun in Patois means to cheat on someone. It means to cheat on someone. And if you get bun with cheese, you cheated very badly. And if you got a jacket, that means you cheated and the person bore a child and they put that on you and claimed it was yours. It's like paternity court. Yep. Bob clearly said he was not married to Rita. Yes, he did. He moved on after he bust. He would have divorced Rita. City was a step up for. Yeah, I mean, he said that a number of times, and it wasn't true. So it's like sometimes we're like, oh, the person is infallible and them never tell lie. They told quite a few of them, right? And that was one of them. That wasn't true. Because if it was true, then she wouldn't be able to fight all these years later. Exactly. And Sydney said he had to clean the makeup from her face. I saw that one. Yes, she could show her body. That's what I'm saying. That's dichotomous thought right there. That didn't make any sense. Let's see here. Yeah, men do chase women that they don't love. They do it all the time. Okay, I'm gonna bring up Gail. I see Gail is in the chat. I'm gonna go ahead and bring her up. Let me know. Introduce yourself, Gail. Welcome to the conversation. Open book club here, and let me know your thoughts. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem. First of all, Immune, I just want to say I have been watching every day, and it has just been amazing to listen to you. You make us feel like we're right there in that time.
Thank
So
you.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to say thank you. And my sister-in-law and my nieces are also from Jamaica as well. So thank
Okay.
you.
You're
So
welcome.
thank you. My name is Gail, and I've been in the music industry for many years. I've met Marley on a couple of occasions, but I don't know them like that, so I don't want to sound like I do. But
Hmm.
I did go to see the movie, okay?
Okay.
And one of the things that really hit me is this is something I truly feel. I have a lot of respect for Damian Marley, okay? His
Hmm.
music is very much like Bob's, okay?
Right.
But the truth of the fact is that Cindy Breakspear, however, no matter how you want to put it, she was still someone that Bob was seeing outside the marriage.
Correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
And Rita Marley was his wife. I don't care what the reasons are of why they stayed or why they didn't. And there's something else I think that we forget also. You said something very powerful about trauma bonding.
Correct.
Okay. And you talked about epigenetics. I've been
Hmm.
looking up all that because I'm very much into the holistic side. But here's the bottom line, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it, Amuna.
Okay.
He was with her at the beginning. Something
Mhm.
started there, and the fact is, there would be no Bob Marley, no matter how you want to put it, okay? If she wasn't there to hold him up at times when
True.
he did not have to hold himself up. And I think Bob also knew that because she took a bullet almost for him. And not most women would do that.
Hmm.
Also, when you talked about how Sedie Marley went, sorry, Miss Cedella Marley
Hmm.
went through what she did with her father and how she ended up with Norval and how Bob ended up with all of these women and the garden and all of that. I'm not going to go into it because you've already talked about it. But all of these things here point to why they both had parallel lives with
Yes.
their family members. So he wasn't going to leave her. That's his wife. That's the bottom line. There are other things I could say, about government and otherwise, but in terms of their marriage, no, I don't. Quite frankly, I'm gonna just be straight. Cindy has no right to think that she should be included anywhere, and she shouldn't even be doing any doggone, lectures about this man when she was a side piece. And I don't know any other way to
Woo.
put it. No, but and I say that with respect.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
hear you.
you should not be sitting at anybody's table with the wife sitting there and the kids and and Miss Breakspear, excuse me for saying you're a side piece. That's not right. But you shouldn't be sitting at anybody's table in somebody's bed. You shouldn't have been in the bed in the first place.
Mm.
Bottom line. That's all I got to say.
Woo! Miss Gail came with the fire. Can we get some fire emojis? I mean, you make a good point, and a lot of people point to it being culturally acceptable, right? That there's this wifey and matey culture, but I think there's a level of respect, and then there's a level of disrespect that is pervasive throughout this entire storyline, right? Even onto today's space and time. To me, this is why the people on the internet showed up for this last public show, right? Because it's like, okay, how long are you going to keep going with this narrative in a polygynous situation? You would have people who would agree to say, listen, this is what I'm accepting. But because it's something that he did and put on people, regardless of how they felt, right? I think that people are seeing it as you're continuing to re-injure the person even after it's been shown that you could care less about how they felt. Like you're gonna have her on stage singing "Turn Your Lights Down Low," right? A song that you wrote. She's on record saying, "I'm not singing a song that you wrote for another woman." Like his level of hubris was high. So yeah,
I,
I agree. I think
I
he
would
golden
I, I
her. Go
was
ahead.
I would
Mhm.
have to. Then I don't want to out talk you. I
No, no,
have
you
to
good.
agree with you because let my husband tell me that I'm going to sing somebody else's song that he wrote for another woman. Yeah, the lights going to be turned down. They're going to be turned off. But here's the bottom line. I also want to say too. I
Hmm.
don't down anybody's way of life. In Senegal, the Wolof people, Okay, they are
Mm-hmm.
allowed to have as many wives as they can take care of, and the women get along. But I can guarantee you, even in Senegal, the women have a. If you ever see Senegalese women, they're queens. They
Mm.
literally carry themselves as queens. And you will never see one Senegalese woman in another Senegalese woman's bed. They each have their own homes, or at least their own rooms in which that husband comes to visit. Okay? So you don't be sitting, one of the things I had a problem with is Cindy Breakspear is in the bed at Cedella's house.
But we
And
got. Go ahead.
no, I just have to say this. You at the mother's house,
Mm.
and Rita's calling in to say, okay, I'm coming in. You should have hightailed it out there. Because I'm going to tell you something. I've only heard this, but I'm from the South. And I've heard that the women of Jamaica go downtown style, you know? So if I walked in the house and this woman's here and talk about pregnant, it would have been downtown, uptown, all over town.
I
No,
think.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna just say this last thing. As
Go
women,
ahead.
I don't care what color you are.
Mm-hmm.
When you and this is what's wrong with a lot of the young women today and why they say they can't find a man.
Mm.
Okay? I have three nieces, their mother's from Jamaica, and I have to say that they're very well educated. I'm very grateful for my sister-in-law and my brother. Okay, I'm African American and they're Caribbean. And sometimes it wasn't always easy to get along. Let me be straight about that with the
Right.
families. But
Right.
but here's the thing. She's a Leo, actually, like Cedella and
Right. And
Rita.
Rita. Right.
And my mother was a Leo. And this is one of the reasons why I really got into what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
My nieces have three amazing men, okay? And it was hard for them to find them, but they did, and they're in their 20s. So I come back and I say, for the young, older, middle class, if you're okay with spreading your legs, I'm going to get real. If you're okay with spreading your legs between this one, that one, and this one, okay, your spirit, when you lay down with a man, your spirits go into one another. If we're going
That's
to
true.
go really deep there. And so you take on his energy, he takes on yours. The
That's true.
bottom line is you've got to look at what you're bringing into you and what you're giving him.
That's correct.
So you can't, as a woman, you can't spread yourself. We're different. We're made different. It's not that we can't do what men do. It's just we're made differently. So you want to look at and be open. If you're okay with sleeping with another woman's man, then you've got to deal with all that comes with that. And if you get your behind whipped, you can't get upset
No.
because because you chose it. You chose that direction knowing he had someone. But now if you all are on the same level and it's an understanding, then that's different. But see, we women say, oh, we won't get that close, but we end up doing so because we're emotional creatures. So bottom line is he was married. Rita didn't know what to do. She was trying to do the best with the tools that she knew how at that time. And she took a lot. And I believe that she deserves whatever she has now because she did put in a time, whether Bob asked her to or not.
Right.
So that's all I wanted to say. And thank you for
Thank
allowing
you
me to
so
come
much.
up and
Thank you so much, Gail. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, your thoughts are heard. Thank you so much for that. I'm
yeah,
gonna
but
add.
I want to know one thing. I have a request: two
Okay.
stories a day.
Look, I heard somebody tell me that before, and I brought Jeremiah up in the chat. I'm just gonna mute you real quick. It's the why the stories I keep them at a certain thing is because by the time I finish cutting and uploading them, I want to make sure that my computer and everything can handle the load. So this is why,
Totally
I
understand.
yeah,
And
that's
that,
why I
by the
put
way,
them like
that
that.
was me that put that in the chat the
Oh,
last
that was
time.
you who said that. Yeah, I definitely saw that. I just have to make sure because right now I'm have an external drive. Not to get too technical, I have to move a lot of stuff off because it's
Oh
taking a
no,
lot
I
of
understand. I'm
room.
in a tech. But
Yeah,
thank you so much for
thank you
having
so
me.
much. All right, thank you so much.
God
So,
bless.
all right, most I bless. Yes. All right, Jeremiah, you're up. You're up. You're up. Let us know your thoughts. Welcome to the conversation.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I've been enjoying your videos. I stumbled across your channel just with all the Bob Marley stuff that's come up because of the
Right.
movie coming out. And I always love it with your little patois interjections in the midst of your thought, man.
Thank
I've been
you.
going back and forth to Jamaica for about 20 years. I went to art school down there,
Okay.
and so I'm there like every year for a significant portion of time.
Okay.
One of the things that I've just kind of been thinking about in my mind that's been interesting. I really enjoyed hearing more about Cedella's story
Yes,
that you've been going through, and man, it just seems like there's so many tumultuous factors leading into the family's life from so many different directions
I agree.
that it really is like kind of tragic in a way. Um, and that was one of the themes that I came away from last year. I visited the Bob Marley Museum on Hope Road last year for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing Bob's life, although it was inspiring in certain ways,
Mm-hmm.
it was also kind of tragic because it just seemed throughout his whole life that it was hard to see that he really ever came to grips with himself.
True.
And I found that to be such a sad thing because he had gone through so much struggle throughout his life to have it reach a point at the end of his life where it didn't really seem resolved. That laid
I
some
agree.
tragedy to me.
And I
Sorry.
think that's what's imploring me to continue to read this, is to see the humanity in the soul, not just as the entertainer or as the legend.
Mm,
But I'm big on, this is why my channel is Soul Therapy. I'm big on, who is this person at the core, and did
right.
they, like you said, did this experience, this life experience, allow them to fully embody that or make
Mm,
peace with it, whatever they needed to do. And the suffering that his mother explains at the end of the book, I would say no. Like, all of that faded to the background when you see how much pain he was in the last 6 months of his life. You understand what I'm saying?
right.
So I
Yeah.
definitely agree with you that this allows us to see the person as a person and not just this idol that people elevate and fix in their mind, that sung a song that made me feel something. But this was a soul that lost along the way. And again, a lot of tragedy, as we're reading, was coming down the pipe from the different generations.
Right.
And that also happens in our own lives as well. So it's definitely something for us to learn from.
Right, definitely. And I watched yesterday, I watched a speech that he gave when he received his Nobel Prize,
Mhm.
Peace Prize or something like that. It was
Order
on
of
YouTube.
distinction, his order of distinction? No, or did he get that afterwards?
I'm not sure, but the title for the video said something about a Peace Prize.
Hmm.
Um,
I would have to check that out. You're frozen, Jeremiah. Jeremiah connection freeze up.
for other members of his family. But
Jeremiah, I drive through the book. Jeremiah, you freeze up. We're gonna wait for Jeremiah to get unfrozen here.
you can hear me still?
Yeah, it's freezing up a little bit. I can hear you now. Go ahead. Can you
Sorry,
hear me?
did the connection drop off?
No, we can't hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. So when I was watching the interview and they were asking him some questions with the speech, Bob had a very forceful personality, and a lot of times to me it seemed like he didn't really answer a lot of questions
No,
directly.
he didn't.
And so like he would just kind of like bulldoze over people and push these ideologies of Rastafari that didn't necessarily have like logical backing,
Hmm.
but because he was so forceful, like it seemed like people, it was hard for them to resist like
Right,
the force of it, or even like kind of wrap the conversation back into um a right direction where they could get some straight answers.
right.
And I was just curious as to like what that dynamic was like with his friends, with his family, And if it was a lot of just like forceful personalities that really prevented things from like coming to a level of resolution.
I think you make a good point, because I did observe that anytime he's asked a question, he would, dance around it, tap dance around it, and kind of divert the person's attention, and they're sitting there looking like, "What in the world did you just say?" I think
Yeah.
that's a coping mechanism.
Hmm.
um, if you're adapting something that you yourself don't necessarily have a handle on, and Alan Skill Cole said this, that there are other people who were instrumental into sowing into his life. So he's taking bits and pieces from ideology that he's hearing about and trying to find a way in which he can internalize it. This is what I'm observing, and make peace with
Yeah.
it so that he can embody it. You understand what I'm saying? Um, and
Yeah.
and I think we are watching him do it real time, if you
Yeah.
can understand.
Yeah. And I,
And this is where it may be not as fluid, because it's changing as he's growing and learning more about what he thinks he believes.
right. And I think that's like kind of where we need to give a level of compassion to people are who are on such a high platform or a high
Hmm.
profile, because like you said, we're kind of watching them make these discoveries or go through these
Right.
trials in front of everyone,
Real time.
with
Yeah.
an extreme amount of pressure. And
Right.
for us who don't have that kind of spotlight, we're potentially working these things out, but people
Mhm.
aren't like giving us all these
Watching you. Right. You're
attention.
not
And
under a microscope.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So, but
I mean,
anyways, man. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
go on. No, go ahead.
Oh,
Thank you for coming in.
I was just gonna say, man, I appreciate all the commentary and just the way you break it down, and how you're going through the different books. And I really feel like you're giving a good, well-rounded picture of it. And I think you're accomplishing, like you said, what you wanted to really give a portrayal of, like, man, this is a person.
It's a person.
Even though they have these accolades and stuff like
Right.
that, like there's a lot of things to consider, because I'm still kind of questioning like how much of how Bob was represented in the biopic is actually Bob. Because it seems to me like his legacy has almost morphed into this like portrayal of what people want him to be. And like how much of that was in him and how much of that is just like people's kind of
Performative.
desire to see these
Right.
things exhibited,
It
you
becomes
know?
performative, because when you're in a public space, it may be an aspect of your personality, but when people are demanding more of that aspect and less of another one, then you
Mm.
magnify that one so that you'll be accepted in this space. So it does
Yeah.
become performative, and then you begin to, and you see it a lot with a lot of stars, you begin to lose who you really are. Because
Hmm.
when you come into a space, if you're a comedian but now you don't feel like being funny, now the people who would accept you are like, oh, something, they fell off, they're not the same
Hmm.
anymore. It's still you, it's just, I'm just chilling today. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
the danger when we make people into idols, and then we cast them in these images in our mind. We don't allow them agency to be humans, right?
Mm.
And we're all humans, we're not always on all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. But give thanks, Jeremiah. Give thanks for your thoughts.
Yeah, man. Keep up the good work, man.
All right, bless up.
All right, cool.
All right, be more blessed. Welcome to the conversation. And again, if you have any thoughts, feel free to come on in. We're gonna wind down in a little bit. What time now? What? 10 o'clock. Yeah. So if you have any more thoughts, click the link, and then if not, then I'm gonna wind down. Be more blessed. You're up.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Yes, ma'am. I've really been enjoying your channel lately. I saw the movie a couple days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, man, it's like it was a presentation of Bob Marley, but like I've been watching documentaries and interviews or whatever about him since I was a teen, so I know
Mm-hmm.
that it wasn't a full-fledged biography, but I think it's just something, and I think it'll be a lot more to come.
Right.
And hopefully Bob will get the full story that his full story will be told the way it deserves to be. But I wanted to chime in on this Rita versus Cindy thing because
Right.
I think I have an idea of what the context is, and I think a lot of people are kind of, from my understanding, it's like a baby daddy baby mama situation that we have here in the US. but it's in
Mm,
a different cultural context.
mm,
I know I waited like 12 years to get officially divorced from my ex-husband. And if we worked together and I just showed up, and he's doing whatever he's doing, I can't get mad or get pissed or start huffing and puffing because we already know what it is. We
mm,
already know we share children. He takes care of me if I need something, he needs something. I'm there for him. But as far as his personal life, who he's sleeping with and all like that, that's no longer my domain. And I think
mm,
that's from what Rita was saying. She had other suitors and stuff like that. I think that was their dynamic. And so we look at it like with the historical eye. It's like, oh, he's cheating, or look, obviously the man was what they call nowadays, what they call it, poly. I don't know.
Polly,
He
he
did
was
his
Polly.
thing.
He was taken
He
after
did his thing.
his grandfather, Omariah.
Right, exactly. And I think Rita probably was, I don't know, I'm not trying to disrespect her, but I think she might have been using the what all she's done for him, in the past, and his background and how he grew up and stuff, as to submit her place in something she was seeing that was becoming successful. What do you think about that?
Um, I think based on I'm gonna because I try to stick to what they said. I think based on the
Yeah, because
story.
I saw. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I see a lot of interviews where she said, you know, me and Bob was going through our thing, but I showed up to do the work. I showed up for the message.
Right,
I showed up,
and, and that's
So
kind of
that's kind of what she said too.
it's kind of what I'm seeing is because the work life relationship was intertwined from the beginning. It was difficult to separate them. Both of them are
Mm,
very much in a entertaining space, kind of like Ike and Tina, right? So it's different.
right.
It's difficult to separate the two because their livelihood and their relationship, at one point, it becomes one and the same. Um, like I said, when Bob's mother, according to the narrative, goes to Delaware and he's looking for this maternal figure to a certain degree, not only just maternally, financially, supportively, Rita is there. That two of them are coming from this space of nothingness.
Hmm.
And I think
I mean, we
about,
all had. Oh,
right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I'm just saying we all had boyfriends at 15, 14,
right.
17,
But
but
at
we
this
don't. Oh,
point, according
okay.
to her, he wants to marry. And this is where it goes to from boyfriend and girlfriend to they're in this relationship that's not common to all the different relationships. I think when they get to a
Hmm.
point where it's no longer advantageous for them to be together, not separating is what causes the issue because a lot of people's like, oh,
Yeah.
Rita, she game bun and she's an adulteress. And it's not justifying her behavior, but he put her in this very compromising situation where he gets to continue to live his life while she's at a standstill. And I think therein lies part of the problem with their relationship and the Taki situation and the jacket and the other outside children she has. Because the question would be, if you want to move on, then what is she supposed to do, right? And I think that's where she found herself in the looking to
You
for
don't think she
solace in
wanted
the
to move
nothingness.
on?
According to her, she did. According to her, in her book, she wanted a divorce and he wouldn't give it to her.
Oh,
Allan.
okay. See, I didn't
Yeah,
get to that part.
yeah. According to her,
Okay.
she did, and he wouldn't give it to her. Part of the reason later on he wants her to come to London and is he hearing that when he's not there, she's frolicking with this dude. So, according to her narrative, he's looking over the phone records when they're on tour to see if she's calling back and talking to him, right? So it may
Yeah.
be like I don't necessarily want her, but you ain't having her either. You know what I mean? I don't know. Men have to step up and tell me what that is. But yeah, I think that
Exactly. That's being a man. That's what that
yes,
is.
I'm not playing with
But
it, but ain't nobody is either. Yeah,
right. But so yeah, but by both of them, not just by Bob and Rita kind of just staying in something that seemed kind of toxic.
yeah,
And then Bob is not here to talk for himself, so we're only getting, the representations that she is putting out.
right.
It's like we can't look back and cast. At least I'm not gonna look back and cast blame on XYZ when it's obvious they had a kind of weird, interesting arrangement, I guess.
Yeah.
And she stayed in it all that time, so that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
All
chiming
right,
in.
take care, honey.
You
All
do
right,
the
bye.
same. All right, everybody. Anybody else want to come on up? If not, I'm just read the last of these comments and then I'm a boogie. Most I willing tomorrow, I will we're gonna find out what happens when Bob is born. That's gonna get interesting. All right. So and if you don't know and you want to check out the other playlist, go ahead and get caught up on that because it's about to get saucy. Let's see here. Cindy would have preserved. You think she would have preserved for herself and her child? Not all. Yeah, I mean the way she moves, it might have been hers, not necessarily the collective, which would have been interesting. You don't think he was gonna? Him not really leave Rita. Them in the circle. Them in. Don't forget about the circle. He couldn't leave Rita because they was in the circle. Mm. So many Caribbean families have these traits, and many people's eyes, these actions are normal, and that's normalized dysfunction, right? There's a difference between something being normal and something being functional. You know, there's many things even in today's society that has become norm. 20 years ago, it wasn't normal. 20 years ago, everybody having a cell phone wasn't normal, right? But now being on your cell phone all day long, all night long is dysfunctional. It's normalized, but it doesn't allow you to get into other things. So for me, normal and functional is not necessarily one in the same. And even though many Caribbean families and even just melanated people in the diaspora, that this whole experience of post-traumatic slavery, and I'm not going to go off into one of my topics that I like to talk about, but this whole experience affected many things on the individual as well as a collective and a family dynamic. And all of these things are definitely at play in this particular story, right? All of these things are at play because the way Cedella, you know, at the end of the other chapter, like, oh, I'm officially the woman of Captain. It's like it was an accomplishment. Like she was officially the woman of Captain Norval. I'm like, how is this an accomplishment? But for some, if you got somebody like that, it will kind of give you status in the community. Raquel, welcome to the conversation. Okay, not sure if the mic check. You could definitely pop in again. Someone says Rita had outside children with Bob. Listen, we my question is there's a Bible story that kind of illustrates this situation. And I kind of, again, you have to remember, you're talking about in the context of Rastafari, you have to look at that is a biblical based religion, right? So in the context of the Bible, the situation of David and his first wife, which would have been Saul's daughter, who loved him dearly, who he paid the foreskins for of the Philistines, she would have done anything for him. She went against her father, the king, for him. She told him to get out of Dodge when and put the little fake dolly in the bed when Saul was going to come for him, right? What does he do? David runs off, leaves Malka, right? Goes around, picks up all of these women, breed them up, running around in the wilderness for how many years? And eventually her father Saul, the king, gives her to another man. Does that sound familiar? And when David comes back and now he wants to sit upon his throne, he calls for the woman that he essentially abandoned and couldn't give two cares about, that she should come back and take her from the man who had loved her because he paid the foreskin situation for her. This situation happened in the Bible, and she, much like what would have become of Rita, doesn't like get to be embraced in the arms of the king. You know, when the king is dying, which is David at the end of his life, who's there? They had to get a virgin girl to come and keep him warm. It's interesting that the princess, I believe, of Gabon was one of the people who came at the end of Bob to tend to him, much like in the situation of David. So it's not lost on me that there are a lot of parallels in this story to things that have happened before, that the person who was there for you in the beginning, you kind of don't remember. Right. But then life is cyclical and it comes back around that nothing is forgotten, really. Right. We can justify all we want. Mom got them sugar and everybody did want him. We could justify all we want. That does not erase the way spirituality works. It doesn't. You know what I mean? So it's weird. Cindy giving university lectures about her deceased lover. Yes, that part, Cynthia. I'm sorry, Cynthia. That's the part that I have questions about. She has a whole husband. The Aruba, Bahamas, the post was written, and you have a whole husband. Cindy, what kind of thing this year right about your ex lover Bob on the internet? Like, how does that work? Damien, I mean, I understand that's your child's father, but how does that work present day when you have a whole husband at home? I don't know. Y'all let me know. And I'm coming to the end here. You wondering why she was very disrespectful and still is. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe some people don't feel it as disrespect, but it looks very disrespectful. It looks very disrespectful. Somebody said Rita still get the light royalty money. Where say Rita get to turn the lights down low money? Manala. Yo, Rita's getting the I don't want to wait in vain money though. It's very unfair how Sydney is viewed. La Fortune, you free to come up. You let us know your thoughts because you said it's very unfair how Sydney is viewed. It's not. It's like no one is necessarily coming for the other baby mothers because they're not to the forefront. I think it's really the way in which she chooses to engage with the present day audience. That if no one knew, now they know, and then you're gonna make them want to go look what you're into, right? So I think to a certain degree, she's calling the attention to herself, which is only gonna make a whole new generation want to know what happened. So, and I think, based on the narrative, Bob emboldened her. If someone allows you to treat, it's like Esther Anderson. Did I read the book? Did I read you guys the part in the book when Esther Anderson, when Rita comes for some money because she's moving to Bull Bay? Did I read that part? Y'all let me know if I read that part. I'm gonna read that part and then I'm a boogie because it seems as though this is not just a Cindy thing; it was a Bob thing, right? Let me know if I read that part. If not, I'm gonna read it again real quick. I'm gonna read it real quick. So basically, she was pregnant again. I think it's with Steven. There's no money. They're still broke and they're still living at Auntie's house, right? And so she goes to Delaware, has Steven overseas, and she finally comes back. She made a little money, being a live-in, a CNA, whatever it is, what she was doing. And she decides that she wants to go back to Jamaica. She doesn't want to live in America anymore. So she comes back to Jamaica, and Bob is now at Hope Road. Okay, she doesn't want to live at Hope Road because it's a hangout place and all of this stuff like this. And she talks to a friend, and the friend is like, there's a new development a little bit outside Bull Bay, and I could link you, right? So she spends the little bit of money that she had to secure this location, and she tells Bob that listen, I want to be at this location. I want to move the children out here. I need a place for the children. So she decides that she's going to go to Bob to tell him that she needs some money so that she can get the moving truck. Now pause. I got the book highlighted, y'all, so hold on. Because these parts. So she goes there, and lo and behold, who is at Hope Road? Someone else who claims she didn't know that Bob was married. Dun, dun, dun. Esther Anderson, right? And Esther Anderson is the one who did the documentary, The Making of the Legend, right? So Esther Anderson is working with Chris Blackwell, and she is promoting him to start to do this, that, and whatever the case may be. Hold on. So she goes to the door. I'm trying to find it, you guys. She goes to the door, and Esther comes. And then she speaks to her very disrespectfully. And if I can't find it, I'm just going to paraphrase. So she's like, is Bob there? Is Bob there? And she's like, what you want? And she was like, I need you to wake him up. And she's like, we not stop breathe. I'm trying to find the exact words. She Esther, and so Bob eventually wakes up from all this noise, and he goes in on Rita for making noise in the neighborhood, according to her narrative. Because and not necessarily reprimanding Esther Anderson for speaking all kind of disrespectful to her. So, like I said, it seems that he's emboldening people to speak to her any kind of way. And that she must stop breed, quote unquote. Can't find it right now, but that's the long and short of it. So it's a lot of humiliation that she would have underwent at the hands of her husband, who's allowing these women for the sake of advancement to treat him in any kind of way. And usually how you make it is how you lose it, right? So with that said, let me see here and then I'm a roll. It's just hold on there. Again, if you want to come up, if you disagree, it's okay. Respectfully, we could have the conversation. All right. Okay. Mm. Monique says she thinks people don't like Cindy because Cindy is bold and doesn't care what anyone thinks. She acts like the prize, very confident, super high self-esteem, which is attractive to men. Cindy still has on her profile 1976 Miss World. Bruh, we're in 2024. We are in 2024. Why? Like, that's like, my baby picture got voted best baby picture in 1972. Like, really? I see La Fortune coming. Welcome to the conversation.
Good evening, everybody. How you
Good
doing?
evening. I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I jumped on because you threw me under the bus.
My bad, sis. I saw you going in, so I was like, come on through.
It's not that I was going in. I'm also Caribbean. I'm not Jamaican. I'm from the island next door, which is Haiti.
IT.
And one of the things I noticed that even though I was born here in America, raised
Mm-hmm.
here in America, but my culture is deeply rooted in Haiti, the
Right.
cycle is the same in I'm noticing in all Caribbean men. I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that because Bob Marley was 30 something when he passed.
Right.
When I sit back and I view things, I came from a very dysfunctional family.
Okay.
Grandmother had 14 kids. My father was once married to my mother. My mother and father shared two children. My
Mm-hmm.
father was in the transportation business driving tractor trailers. My father
Wow.
had seven children outside of his marriage.
Wow.
And like Bob and Rita, her role of being, labeled as the sister, my mother was the cousin. You know what I'm saying? So
Not
to
the
me,
cousin.
yeah, she was the cousin. And right now, I'm in a similar situation where my I have a daughter, she's 2 years old, and she is by a married man. And she is Jamaican, and me being Haitian, she's very territorial. But me growing up in New York and Brooklyn, I'm gonna stand my grounds.
Uh-oh.
Like you're not gonna punk me. I just feel like a lot of the cycle, it's very heavy
It
and
is.
dysfunctional and toxic in the Caribbean culture. It's not just a Bob and Rita thing. My thing that I really enjoyed about Rita
Mm-hmm.
is that how she embraced these children. I did
Right.
throw it out in a comment that nowadays, you know, women are not going to accept any outside children. You know what I'm saying? Like with my situation, the wife refuses to accept my daughter, and I'm cool with that because you already showing me what kind of person you are by the amount of hatred you have to a 2 year old. But me, on the other hand, I was in a relationship with someone for many years. And when he shared with me he had a child, which was in Jamaica, I fought for that child
Oh
because I
wow.
know these kids, they're not going to stay young forever. And how dare you be here in America chilling and not allow your child to have that opportunity to come up? You know what I'm saying? Not everybody is, loving and, willing to accept an outside child. I love that about Rita Marley because she embraced them kids. But I know deep down inside with her, it may have been very hurtful.
Right.
So I just wanted to share that, you know what I'm saying? Because I see that happen. I live in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut is a very near the Hartford area, which is the capital of Connecticut.
Right.
It's mostly predominantly Jamaican
There's a lot
central
of
out
Jamaicans
here.
out there. Yeah, yeah,
And
I
when
know.
I tell you it ain't nothing but a whole bunch of Rita and Bob Marleys around,
Oh my
that's
goodness.
all you see is a whole bunch of Rita and Bob Marleys around. I
So
didn't see the movie, I
Mm,
didn't see it at all, and I'm not really interested in seeing the movie. I'd
right.
rather hear,
Story.
the stories that you're
Yeah.
sharing with us, on the social media platforms.
Yeah.
I am enjoying that. I'm not really too into the movie because it's not like it's a documentary about him.
Right.
I do love Bob Marley's Pan African side, the revolutionary side that he had. Nobody don't really talk about that. They just all in his personal mix. And I believe if he was still around, he would have had more kids.
Oh yeah.
I don't
He
think
had one before he died. She born
that.
two. She born
But
2 weeks after he died.
listen, while my dad, he passed away. It's been about 11 years. My father was like 80 something.
Oh
I'm in
wow.
my 40s. My father had the audacity to have a baby with some chick around my age. You know what I'm saying? These Caribbean men just don't stop. And you
Right.
know what? As far as like women, including myself, you just get caught up in the mix. Everybody want to throw this lady up under the bus. Nobody can't really control how that woman feel about Bob Marley.
So that's
Shame
kind
on
of what
her.
I kind of wanted to go into that because you have a unique perspective. Sorry if I mean I flicked you in there. I didn't know who it was. I was just like I
No,
like
it's
Caribbean
okay.
talk,
I'm not
right?
shy. It's all right.
Right. But so what you're saying is that Sydney means more compassion, or that because the way she comes across is not that. For instance, she
I
said,
feel like she being grimy too. I
"Okay,
didn't mean to
okay,
cut you
that's what I
off.
was trying to get to." I was
I
like, "Wait
feel
a
like
minute,
she being low key grimy because
right? Okay,
my daughter's father, the wife, she behaved the same way. What I mean by that is I'm more like the Rita. I'm the more natural looking.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? And the wife, she more that Barbie doll, pointy nose. They call her chin because she want to persuade an image that's not really her.
so she
I'm
got
more like
Chinese."
down to earth. And I just feel like some of those female those what are they? Narcissistic females like those Jada Pinkett's, they like to use their bodies and their features to like act like they the ones that's running shit when they're not.
So do you think
I feel
him?
like she throwing shade.
I don't mean to get into the business, right? But in her objection, is it to the objection of how he possibly did it? You guys' relationship, was it something that was, and not to get too personal, but like in the case of Rita and the other women, that he's just going on his own and picking these women up and bringing, is that something that you think would affect the way in which the wife perceives him, the woman, and the children that they're bringing in?
My thing is, I believe I heard Bob Marley in an interview say he just want to spread his love. Remember, he stated it himself. He want
That's
all
the
the
kind of
queens. He want all the queens. And those men, they mean that. Especially when they have that swag to them. They know how to wheel the ladies in. They be some handsome, they know how to get us. I was a victim of it too.
what are you
Look,
saying? You was a victim of circumstance.
I was a victim. But listen, I'm a victim that accepts accountability.
Right, right.
There's a difference.
That got
I'm
me
accepting
laughing.
hey, I played my part in it too. And let me tell you something, I don't regret it. If I could do it again, I'd do it again. I
Wow.
don't.
So you knew or you didn't know?
No,
Like,
in the beginning, I did not know.
okay, so
I
that's
did
how.
not know. And as far as even with his mother, I'm talking about Cedella. I don't
Mm,
believe everything she's saying neither. Because even an incident happened today where I reached out to my daughter's grandmother. Me and her relationship is mad tight. And I'm like, yo, shouldn't she be like that with her daughter-in-law?
mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like the same thing when, Bob Marley was chilling with
Right,
Cindy.
right,
How
right.
she chilling with Cindy and then
In the
Rita
house.
come in.
In the house.
Right. And it's okay with you. Sadella was with the fuck shit too.
Oh, mercy.
These grandmothers and these mothers-in-laws, they be with the drama too.
Wow. Uh-oh.
But all of that stuff seemed normal to me. It's normal it's very dysfunctional,
That,
yes.
yes, that's what I was gonna say.
And I
There
just
is a
feel like with
dysfunctional.
situations like that, at least let the kids know each other because this world is very small.
That's also true. So what you're saying is that even though the parents or the adults may have done what they did, don't let that reflect on the children,
That's
and
right.
to bridge that gap.
Do your thing because we all gonna get old. You know what I'm saying? We all gonna get old. The kids are they're gonna continue to they're gonna be here. There's nothing you could do about it. Once that man plant that seed and that child is here, there's not you either gonna accept it or you gonna keep it moving. You gonna play your part or you're not going to play your part. But allow the children. That's why I said I loved how Rita, she played her part by embracing them kids.
So lastly, because I see Gail came back to the chat, do you think that if the shoe was on the other foot, would Sydney Breakspeare have? And this is
No,
oh,
nope,
whoa, dang, I ain't even finished.
nope. Because I could, it's like I could see right through her a little bit.
Right.
I could see she low key grimy. You don't see like how she's like she loved Bob. Ain't nobody saying that she didn't, but it's like she's like rubbing, like putting her pictures out there. She rubbing the situation at Rita, and I noticed I ain't see Rita clap back neither,
The children did. I mean, it seemingly like the children was like, okay,
because
this is
they know what it is, and I'm
right.
sure when they have a conversation with their mom, they see they're able to see the mom's hurt. I just feel like I wouldn't. That is just so tasteless what she's doing to me. I mean, as being Miss World, be a little bit classy with it. She not being classy. She just being real ratchet about the situation.
Thank you so
That's
much for
just
your
my opinion.
thank you for your thoughts. Like I said, I'm open to hearing different
And don't
perspectives.
be throwing me under the bus no more.
My bad,
You
sis. Now that
remember
I
that
know it's
name.
you, now that I know it's you, you're welcome to come up to the mic, and share your perspective. You know what I mean?
But it was great chit chat with you, and I
Yeah,
love what you're doing. Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
And I did put my order in for my book that you got out there on
Thank you,
Amazon,
thank
and
you,
we're
thank
gonna
you,
keep it
thank you.
moving.
Alan
I'm
Twist,
gonna let you
yes.
get the next caller.
Click the link. I'm Island Twist. Get the book. Promote Island Caribbean literature. Not our voices need to be out there and heard. Our stories need to be told. So definitely, I'm an author. I'm over here talking many things, entrepreneur and author, but definitely click the link. Support the channel. I'm not even on the other side of YouTube, so I don't know what's going on. But press like, share all of that lovely, great stuff. I'm just having a good time. So you know what it is. I see Miss Gail came back in the chat. Miss Gail's like, yo, I'm going back up here. Miss Gail, come in. Oh, I can hear you
Sure.
now. Go ahead. I can hear you.
No, I said, I came back because I want to make sure I heard what that young lady said. I was hoping she was actually going to stay on.
Okay.
Did she say that she was one of those young ladies before, like a Cindy?
I believe so. I don't want to misquote her, but she's able to identify with a situation of at first not knowing that someone was married and then being involved with them and then the product is a child. I believe that's what she said. Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to say this to everyone listening. You know, you said something very powerful, Immune, and something that I live by. And it's not that I'm Miss Perfect, because I'm not. We all, we get emotions and we get feelings. But when someone is with somebody else and you know it, I've been in the music industry for a minute now. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say a minute, a long minute.
Along
Okay.
with you.
Working with some of the most top people in the world, all the way to the person who's up and coming. Okay.
Mhm.
And when a lot of people get into this industry, they want it badly. Okay. I was grateful that I came from the South and from parents that had good morals. And I probably didn't go as high in the industry from the business side because I had self respect.
Mm.
And so I want to talk about one person in particular. His name is Barry White. He was my mentor. Now, everybody knows him with the deep voice and everything.
Mhm.
But behind that persona, and I'm not saying that to drop names, behind that persona was a deeply spiritual man, but he
Mhm.
was human. So I saw someone in your chat say that Bob Marley, yes, he delivered a message, but most often people that deliver a message, they're healing themselves through the music.
True.
He he had a troubled spirit, and Rita had a troubled spirit. I
True.
heard somebody say Rita didn't clap back. Rita's health may not allow her to clap back right now. Maybe that's why the children are speaking for her. But I just want to say this too. My mother told me something when my her and my dad didn't work out. She said, we were young. And she said, when we were young, I would ask her, well, Mom, do you feel a certain way about my father? And she said, no, that was between me and your father. You have your relationship with your dad. And I respected my mother so highly. She was not going to trash him. She wanted me to get to know my father for
Right.
where and who he was and my brother. So when we walk around as women saying it's okay to let the kids know the kids didn't ask to be here. And so men and women need to start getting responsible for how they bring people in. If you want to sleep around, that's cool. But when you start bringing children into the mix, they didn't ask to be here. So we got to understand what the deal is because sometimes, you know, that's why I talked about emotions. When a woman is carrying a child, she releases her emotions into that child.
That's correct.
And then so that child don't even know what's going on. So when it comes down to Bob and Rita, Bob would not be Bob Marley if it was not for Rita Marley. I don't care what the hell her motives were behind that. He would not be grounded and where he was if it was not for her. Because when she was shot in the head, she came back on that stage, not but hours later. And I don't think she was thinking, how much money can I make and how can I be the legacy? I'm sure she wasn't thinking. I'm thinking she was probably thinking about how can I help bring my country together with Michael Manley. So we got to look back and look at the times where she may have been. I don't think she was thinking, let me see how many babies I can have by Marley, or, I'm going to be the part of history. I don't think she was thinking that when she almost died herself.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you make a good point. At that time, it's survival. Even when the shooting happens, and the story says that they go to Bahamas and they can't stay there indefinitely. He decides he's going to London, and I said it jokingly, but it's like, where are you gonna go? And she ends up having to go back to the same place that he's afraid to go back to at that time. So they are definitely in this survival mode of how are they going to navigate. It's all happening at the same time, right? We can look back and be like, oh, they should have did this, but it's happening. She's having all these children. They have all this responsibility, and now it's political, and he's off somewhere in London, and now you have to find and navigate your way through. So I do agree that there's definitely that there was a lot going on. That was something I was going to say and I forgot to, but it's all good.
But Miss Amuna also remembers something too.
Mm-hmm,
This is the part that I want to bring everyone's attention to. While
mm-hmm,
he was in London, regardless of what song he wrote or whatever, that's when he wrote Exodus, right?
right.
And he said that he couldn't pull it off without who? Rita.
Yeah, because
So I just wanted to bring it back to that. So no matter what we say, and I just want to say about Cindy Blackspear, it takes two to tango. When he wanted to be with her, she wanted to be with him. They ended up. That's what happened at that time, and it's no blame game, okay? But the point is to go around here doing lectures like you were with that man when your lock. You weren't when you didn't get shot. You weren't there when that bullet hit her, however it hit the lock that was in that woman's head. Now that lock stopped that bullet from going to her skull. Cindy didn't go through that. So unless you went through all of those things, you shouldn't be doing any lecture on how you laid in a bed, man, and it was all good, and you were enjoying it, man, and you were enjoying the moo moo goo goo, all of it. Okay? That's nothing to be. That, I'm sorry, but that's nothing to be lecturing about.
oh, give us the strength.
No, I
Thank you.
mean,
No,
I,
I
I
hear
don't.
you. I
I
hear
don't
you.
mean to. Look. What are you lecturing and writing a book by? And that man, I was with him before he died. Well, guess what? Before he died, he was still with Rita, and everything. I mean, I think it's very disrespectful for you to go around doing all these lectures. But you are still a part of the history. I agree.
Right,
Cindy is still a part of the history and should be acknowledged as such. But she also got married to a man right after, and she's got a husband now. Go have the moo moo man with your husband, and
right.
leave the rest alone. That and let bygones be bygones. In fact, let this be a time, the times that we're in, to look at Bob the man and the music he did to bring people together because we're in some rough times worldwide right now. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. And as we were talking and speaking about the effects of the children, I did order Kimani's book. I'm trying because it was getting scarce. I'm like, uh-oh, the book is getting scarce because I kind of wanted to tie all together the grandmother's book, the mother's book, and then the child, right? Because when you go to three generations, to the third and fourth generations, you can see whether or not these cycles continue or whether they broke, right? And we can say what we want from the outside, the children living inside. There was a story that I believe uh
I
was it
just want to say
Ziggy?
one thing, Amuna. I just want to say one thing. I've met Kamani before. I do not know him well at all. I've just met him
Okay,
on two or three occasions when he was doing some work at a nonprofit organization.
okay,
So I wanted to be clear. I do not know him like that. Some people might come up and say, "Oh, I know him." I don't know him. I've just met him two or three times, and he
right.
was an amazing person. That's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you for that. So that's definitely, I'll let you know if the book come in, because the book was getting scarce. Because the way I set the thing up in my mind, I look for these reoccurring cycles, to see and to learn lessons from. Somebody asked me on it, what is the purpose of this? I use all things as teaching tools, learning for myself as well as others. And one of the things we've become disconnected from is our story. And if we don't know where we're coming from, we don't know where we're going. And some people may think, oh, this is just gossip. No, we've lost our connectivity to our stories. Therefore, we're our morals and our lessons that we're supposed to learn from what such and such did or such and such did and how it worked out. We're disconnected from that. So we keep making the same mistakes over and over and expecting a different result. And so I think it's powerful to share these stories. And I thank them for writing them down so that we can be here reading them. So I want to
I
thank
have
Mr.
one. I want to ask you one question, though, Amuna, not to stay on. But you've said so many powerful things in your storytelling, and that's why I've really enjoyed listening to it. I'd
Mhm.
love for you to explain to people about because, like what you talk about, Bob, the epigenetics
Genetic.
and how,
Yes.
because it's DNA. You don't change your DNA, but it's a reversible in how you engage with the DNA
Correct.
in your life. And I want to say this: my great grandfather died 115 or 16 in the South. Okay,
Oh,
he had
wow.
11 kids, which were my grandmother, and all of them. Interestingly enough, it plays out like I come from lawyers, doctors, and educators, but at the same time, there was some stuff that went on down in North Carolina that was replayed out in the rest of my family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so I saw that. And my mother was a single parent, okay? So there were still some things that got played out, even though my brother and I did not have, uh, didn't have children out of wedlock. It's still there are certain things that played out, and
Right.
usually heard something very powerful. Now I'm going to leave after this, but I would love for you to explain it. There's I get into some deep stuff as well, like you do,
Mm.
and one part I heard that is the people who are very deep spiritually, or the people who go through any mental health issues, right, sometimes are also the one who are breaking the patterns
Correct.
of what's going on. And if you can explain how the epigeneticists, genetics,
Mm-hmm.
and that of one who breaks the pattern. Now, I'm not saying anybody who breaks the pattern in every family is mentally has mental health issues. I'm saying that sometimes that comes with it when you're breaking that. Can you explain that a little bit to all of us one day?
I could, yeah. One day I'll come on and speak more in depth on that. I would just say the long and short of it is, based on my studies over the last 20 plus years, is that I could boil it down to a biblical scripture that talks about the sins of the fathers will be revisited to the third and fourth generation, right? And that means essentially that the things that we don't even know of, because at the end of his life, Bob asked his mother, tell me about my father. He didn't know that he was necessarily manifesting the same sins that his father did, right? But it says that they will be revisited. There's some people that calls it karma. So essentially in our DNA, they call it epigenetics, because above our DNA, there are some markers of that turn on and off certain things, right? That's on that epigenetic side of how we react to certain situations that our foreparents reacted to, right? So that's that as it relates to genes. And then there's spiritual. When our people, anybody does something good or bad, I kind of explain it, it goes into the cloud, right? Just like right now, if we're on the internet and we want to upload things, they're in the cloud. We can't physically see them, but they're there. If we have the right passcode, they'll download, right? So when people in our soul family do things good or bad, they're in the ether. And when we tune into that frequency, like when we turn on our radio and we want to listen to Hot 97 Kiss FM, if we turn to the right frequency, we're going to hear that sound. If our energy turns to the right frequency, we will download certain experiences, good or bad, from those who came before us. That's kind of the easiest way I can explain it
No,
at
I
this
understand.
time.
No, I would love to have one day, not now, but
Yeah, yeah,
something with
that's
you. And I would just say it's like Akashic Records. You know where
correct.
I'm
Oh,
going?
yes. Some people will call it that, but it definitely is there. And this is why we don't have to see or know the person to have similar experiences. Now, how we break them is beginning to be aware of our own selves and our own behaviors and identify the patterns in our own life, the visible patterns. Like, does everybody in your family have issues in relationships? Does everybody in your family have issues in, or even certain people? You kind of begin to see the patterns that repeat in your family, and just know that when you're ready to break them, it ain't gonna be easy.
Well,
It definitely is gonna be a
I
fight.
will say that Bob's children's, some of them have seemed to have broken the cycle. Some of them, I think, have broken that cycle that maybe their mom and dad have gone through. It looks a little bit like that.
I
So
haven't really looked at them much. Tell you the truth, this is the most I've actually looked. So that's why I ordered Kimani's book, because I kind of want to see where his mind is. I know that we see some repeat a little bit with Rowan, in as it relates to the Lauren Hill situation. We see some of that same energy coming back. I think he said he has like 12 children,
oh,
so we
geez.
see. But
Because
thank you so much, Gail. I'm gonna see if
thank you.
anybody else wants to come up. But thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for joining
much
us.
and have a
You're welcome.
blessed day.
You did the same. So thank you everybody for tuning in and rocking with us. We at the 1 hour and 42-minute mark. My bedtime I come, so we can read more story tomorrow, right? So let me just go through here and make sure everybody is heard, and then I'm gonna go ahead. Rita had a massive stroke. She can't clap back. I did see something. I did see that she wasn't looking too well. So definitely, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. So with that said, again, this is not the Susu channel. So it's not just to just be talking about people's business. Ultimately, it's just to learn, to be able to identify and to be able to grow from the things that we're learning along the way. And so definitely, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Y'all still going in on Cindy. I'm just rolling down to the end here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and definitely have a blessed night. Prayerfully, I'll have a next video up for you guys tomorrow. And like I'll try to do these like at least once a week, and yeah, we'll go from there. So definitely tune in. Wait, why is it such a big issue with us females when it comes to men having more than one woman? We outnumber them. Lovers of themselves in Bible times, men had lots of women. Oh boy, no love. That's gonna be a whole nother story. I was about to wind down, yeah. It's an issue. It's an issue because everybody is not built the same. There is a lot of justification for men taking up many women. And in their estimation, many women just means you impregnate all these women. But the masculine principle, his job is not only just to impregnate women, right? And if he takes up all of these women and he doesn't provide the things that beyond being physically distributing ud here and there, if then that it creates an imbalance in society. So you'll see a lot of polygynous societies. It doesn't work. I've done extensive research on this historically. It's covered over as though it works, but even in certain polygynous communities, you're going to have a lot of brain massaging to get the women to agree in a lot of spaces to come together. There's still going to be disparities in the family historically. There's still going to be jealousy because you have all of these women and their children fighting for limited resources. If the man is supposed to provide these resources, his time, his energy, his efforts, and not to mention being there physically for the children, which is basically impossible, especially if he's out getting the resources, he's not going to be there. That leads me to something that I heard. I think it was Rowan telling the story about his father, about not having him for himself, not being able to make that connection. I think it's Julian. Is it Julian or is it Damien? I think it's Julian who met his father for 2 minutes backstage. A father, what they know of their father for many of his children is what you know of their father. So yes, you gave them life and you helped them to come into this earthly existence, but as a father you weren't able to be there. And that's what happens a lot of times with this loose polygyny structure, is that we're not considering that male and female created he them, and you need these two very present dynamics to make sure that this tree grows up strong and right. So that would be my thoughts on it. It creates a problem, and I can go in, but check the polygyny playlist, because I've gone down that rabbit hole way too many times. And I think that Kimmy said the most issues with Rita. I'm gonna read the book and then let you guys. Oh, it's page 91. Lynn is like, Amuna, it's page 91. I missed the page. Yeah. She went to the house for help, and then Esther Aniston hollering out the window telling her to stop breathing. Are we serious? And then your husband is the one who's breeding you. How come she didn't turn to Bob and say, Bob, stop breathing? Why are you hollering at the woman like she breathing herself? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Right? I'm not sure what issues Kamani had, but I'm definitely going to see. I'm waiting for the book to arrive. I don't know what the husband feels about how she behaving in public. Yeah, somebody else made that point that Sydney, she doesn't really go into the other children. They're kind of like in the background while she dotes on Bob's child, which is Damien, Damien Martin. She dotes on him, and the other children are kind of just like hanging out in the cut. Like, here she goes again. Kamani in his book explains how he was in poverty in Jamaica and in Miami. He gives the impression that Rita could have done more. Mind you, he was a child and he was going off on what his mother said. That's interesting. And again, that would be his perspective. So your father is this big icon, right? And that's what the book says about the last woman that he impregnated, a woman named Yvette, for the last daughter, Makita, that was born after he died, is that because she came after the cutoff time, Rita asked Cedella to vouch for her, to say that she is Bob Marley's child, because if she didn't do that, then the woman would end up on welfare. So that's what I'm saying. It's not just, take up a whole lot of women and breed them. Did you provide for them in a way to make sure that they and the children that you procreated would have been all right? They had to fight tooth and nail. That means you didn't fully. It says a wise man leaves inheritance for his children's children. That's what the Bible says. That's what Bob would have been reading. A wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So why is it that all of these children that you were procreating, you did not secure when you had the means to do so? Somebody say, wait a minute. Yes, Cindy has other children. She got other children. She got 2 other children, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, man, hit the like button. I'm not over there to see what's going on YouTube. Shout out to everybody. Yeah, man, hit the like button. Hit the like button. Yeah. Few of them broke in the cycle. Hopefully they do, because that's what it's all about. I think they're at an advantage, because some of us who are looking to break the cycle, we don't have this much material. If they wanted to, you have so much material from your grandmother and your mother, and tapes and videos. You have a wealth of material that you can look at to be able to begin to break this cycle and identify these markers. And so hopefully they're doing that. Hopefully they're doing that. All right. I'm just coming to the end here. Shout out to everybody. Everybody have distributing wood. Yeah, you'll get wood. You'll get wood. You'll get wood. Everybody will get wood. What in the world? Just slinging. Just slinging. Big up yourself. Let me see here. Look at Nick Cannon. Exactly. Nick Cannon is doing something very similar. He got some diagnosis and he just distribute everywhere and I breed up a pitney the people them. Are you able to be there for all of these children as a father should? Not just, even if you gave them resources, it's more than that. You know what I mean? And I think that's not, because he didn't necessarily have a good example of a father, he doesn't have a reference point. So Nick Cannon is a modern day Jacob over there. He trying to have the 12 tribes of Nick Cannon over there. It late for true. We're gonna go sleep for true. Everybody about said late. So you're what? We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, everybody. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Everybody have a blessed night. Go drink your mint tea, you know what I mean? And relax yourself. Have a blessed night, and we'll talk again. Hold on there. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Do do do.